I was the most foolish and clumsy of mortals, while she was a peerless sword immortal revered by tens of thousands. Yet, when Liu Ruyan ascended to the immortal realm, and I married another mortal woman, she furiously descended from the heavens, pressing her sword against my wife's neck. On the day of Liu Ruyan's ascension, Liu Village was packed with people coming to offer congratulations. The threshold of my house was nearly trampled flat. My dog, Lao Huang, was so terrified he cowered at the door, not daring to bark. Haha, Qin Han sure is lucky. Back when he picked up Fairy Liu, we even laughed at him for being a fool. While I stood speechless, stunned by the immortal's radiant golden chariot, the ascending Liu Ruyan looked down at me with haughty pride. My master says I owe you a debt of gratitude. An immortal's promise is worth its weight in gold. Whatever you want, I will grant it. For the 5 years after I saved Liu Ruyan, I dreamed every day of her marrying me. While she practiced swordsmanship, I farmed. While she cultivated, I saved money. I only hoped that one day I might move her heart. Deep down, I knew she didn't like me. She only liked her clever junior martial brother, Liu Xingqian. Liu Xingqian was brilliant and handsome. Liu Ruyan only had to teach him a sword technique once, and he would master it. I secretly practiced it dozens of times, but all it did was let me throw the chicken feed a little farther. When Liu Ruyan and Liu Xingqian caught me, Liu Xingqian covered his mouth, laughing until tears came to his eyes. Liu Ruyan hated fools the most. She frowned and said, "Qin Han, you have no spiritual root. Don't waste your effort. Senior sister, mortals have short lives. Their whole existence is but a blink of an eye," Liu Xingqian advised her. 3 lifetimes as husband and wife are just a fleeting moment for an immortal. It won't delay us from sealing the touty beast. Liu Ruyan's face turned grim. Perhaps she was afraid I would ask her to stay by my side for a lifetime. At that moment, her robes fluttered in the wind, noble and utterly aloof. She looked nothing like the destitute Liu Ruyan from 5 years ago, who had been left with only a single breath, needing me to feed her rice porridge spoonful by spoonful. Fairy Liu could never be Qin Han's wife. I shouldn't pester her anymore. I thought for a moment, then picked up Lao Huang. Cure Lao Huang's illness, and you won't owe me anything anymore. Liu Ruyan froze, but she quickly realized this was a highly profitable trade. She raised her hand, and Lao Huang, who hadn't eaten for 3 days, rolled over and happily trotted over to eat the leftovers in his bowl. Liu Xingqian joyfully tugged at her hem. "Senior sister, your worldly karmic ties are now severed. Let's go back and report to Master." Liu Ruyan looked back at me, her eyes filled with complex emotions. The immortals departed, and the clouds on the horizon instantly dispersed. The well-wishers sighed, secretly tucking the gifts they had brought back into their coats. Qin Han is such an idiot. An immortal's promise, and he used it to save a dog. I grabbed matchmaker Liu, who was also about to leave. "Uncle Liu, do me a favor." "Do what?" "Help me find a wife." I thought about it very seriously. I want someone virtuous and content. Someone who won't abandon her husband and children even if she strikes it rich. Matchmaker Liu didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and waved his hands repeatedly. "How could I dare find someone for you? Wouldn't Fairy Liu strike me dead with a bolt of lightning?" I sighed, feeling a bit of regret about saving Lao Huang. If I had known, I would have asked Liu Ruyan to find me a wife. "Qin Han, do you still want a woman?" Matchmaker Zhao knocked on my door. "It won't cost you a penny. What good could come for free? She's famous across the surrounding villages. Master of the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Delicate and fragile, born to live like a pampered lady. Could someone like that be a good match?" I opened the door, but when I saw the woman's face, I swallowed my words of refusal. I want her, I want her. The more someone lacks something, the more they crave it. I couldn't string together pretty words. The woman before me looked incredibly gentle and virtuous. She was like a painted scroll of a landscape. As soon as it unfurled, a sweet, elegant fragrance wafted over. While matchmaker Zhao spoke, she bowed slightly. When she looked up and saw me, her cheeks flushed. Her graceful demeanor made my heart flutter. In my Qin family, for 3 generations back, there hadn't been a single scholar. Matchmaker Zhao cast a serious look at the young lady, wiped her sweat, and tucked her handkerchief back into her clothes. "Su Moyu, no husband, no father, no mother, no debts, 20 years old, master of the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Qin Han, no father, no mother, no debts. His last woman flew off to become an immortal and is definitely never coming back. You just stay home, support your husband, and raise the children. We'll live a good life together. What do you say?" Her affectionate eyes crinkled with a smile, and she nodded. Her smile made me feel like I was walking on clouds, completely weightless. "Then it's settled," Matchmaker Zhao let out a long sigh. Matchmaker about the fee. No need, no need. I was wondering why the usually stingy matchmaker Zhao was refusing money. I looked at Su Moyu. Her slender waist and lovely face grew more pleasing the longer I looked. In what way was she inferior to Liu Ruyan? I nodded in satisfaction. Right on cue, Su Moyu's stomach growled. Her face turned red again. I couldn't bear to see a beauty go hungry, so I quickly rolled up my sleeves. I'll go make you a bowl of dough drop soup and poach 2 eggs. Su Moyu ate elegantly and beautifully. She finished every last drop. It looked like the bowl didn't even need washing. When she noticed me watching her, she shyly wiped the corners of her mouth. She wasn't like Liu Ruyan or Liu Xingchen. Liu Ruyan practiced anedia, claiming the food I made was tainted with mortal impurities. Liu Xingchen was afraid of getting fat, always picking at his food and only eating fruits and vegetables. That night, I was so happy I lay in bed planning how we would live our days from now on. Su Moyu was highly skilled in the arts. She had to be a very intelligent woman. I wondered if she could teach me how to read and do math so I wouldn't be bullied anymore. But what if she wasn't willing? Liu Ruyan was smart, yet she never agreed to teach me. The day Wang Mazi scammed me out of half a basket of eggs, she just looked at me coldly and said, "A fool like you deserves to be cheated." I wasn't born stupid. When I was 5, I was struck by a bolt of lightning, and I became like this. I was often tricked by others, yet my heart remained too soft. Last winter, I sold 2 plump chickens. On the way back, I met a beggar covered in festering sores. I couldn't bear the sight, so I gave him half my money. Liu Ruyan sneered and said he was a fraud, that the sores were fake. I actually breathed a sigh of relief. That's wonderful, otherwise it would have hurt so much. She looked at me in disgust. You idiot. I had grown used to her mockery. I just smiled and said nothing. Just as I was wondering how to ask Su Moyu to teach me, I suddenly heard the door click. A white figure, light as a fairy, quietly slipped into my room. Before I could even turn around, a soft, warm body pressed against my back. A soft sigh brushed my ear. So fragrant, why do you smell so sweet? It was Su Moyu. In the moonlight, her thin inner robes hung loosely, revealing a stretch of snow-white shoulders and neck. My throat tightened at the sight, and my heart hammered like a drum. Her delicate, boneless hands climbed onto my shoulders as she whispered, "Qin Han, Fairy Liu has ascended. Have you ever thought of finding someone who truly understands your heart?" "Not really, I have Lao Huang for company, and a yard full of chickens and ducks." I chuckled foolishly. "What about you? Are you feeling cold?" She leaned against the doorframe, letting me pull her robes tightly around her. I didn't notice that the shadow she cast in the moonlight took the shape of a 9-tailed fox demon. Su Moyu tilted her head to study me and gave a dazzling smile. That smile was so soul-stirring that I couldn't help but stare blankly. I suddenly remembered she had come here all alone, likely without much luggage. "Tomorrow I'll go to town to sell eggs, and I'll buy some fabric to make you new clothes." I scratched my head. "It's getting cold. We should make something thick first." "Oh, right. I also need to buy a bolt of red cloth for our wedding." A strange glint flashed in her eyes, but she quickly reverted to her obedient and gentle demeanor. "Qin Han, I'm hungry." There was still some prepared dough in the kitchen, so I got to work. I kneaded the dough, rolled it out, mixed in a spoonful of sugar, and pan-fried it until both sides were golden brown. The firewood burned brightly, emitting a comforting, toasted aroma. Su Moyu just watched me work, her gaze burning brightly. I wiped the sweat from my forehead. "The kitchen is dirty. Why don't you rest outside?" "I want to stay with you," she said softly. Under the candlelight, a profound gleam flickered in Su Moyu's eyes. The process of waiting for food to be cooked is even more satisfying than the moment of eating it. "Careful, it's hot." I looked at her anxiously. I wasn't worried about the dirt. I was afraid she would be like Liu Ruyan, frowning at the brown pancake in my hands, calling them dirty. How could it be dirty? Su Moyu took a bite of the sugar filling, her eyes narrowing into happy crescents. I finally realized what Su Moyu reminded me of. She looked like a lady transformed from a fox. She elegantly savored the pancake, her gaze never leaving me. I even suspected that in the next second, she might lick a non-existent fox tail. "Qin Han, tell me about yourself." "About me, I don't have much worth talking about. My name is Qin Han. I don't remember anything before I was 5. When I was 5, Qin Village was struck by a thunderstorm. I was hit by a bolt of lightning, and from then on, I became slow-witted. After my parents died, I became the village orphan. Even though the villagers were poor, they couldn't bear to watch me starve. I learned to fend for myself, gathering firewood, gleaning wheat, and even taking care of sick animals. One autumn, I stood in the rain holding 2 dying chickens, waiting for their owner to claim them. Someone told me, no one wants sick chickens like these, just take them. I carefully nursed those 2 chickens, and they quickly recovered, laying eggs and multiplying. The villagers all say, heaven doesn't let a blind sparrow starve. Qin Han may be foolish, but he has a real knack for raising livestock. When I was 12, I saved a dog that had been smashed by a rock. I named him Lao Huang. Lao Huang became my first family member. Then when I was 14, I met Liu Ruyan. She was lying by the roadside, her clothes in tatters, unconscious. Even so, her beauty could topple cities. She looked just like a fairy descending to earth. I used a lotus leaf to shade her from the sun and waited by her side all day. When night fell, I sneakily looked around, and after making sure no one was there, I carried her home on my back. Looking at her sleeping face, I felt a mix of emotions. How could such a breathtakingly beautiful girl go unnoticed by anyone? I counted on my fingers. In the past, it was just my parents and me. The village chief said that looked like a family. Now I had Lao Huang and Liu Ruyan. Could the 3 of us become a family too? I smiled foolishly to myself, but then I worried about Liu Ruyan's injuries. I carefully brewed rice porridge and chicken soup, feeding her with the utmost care. On the 3rd day, she finally opened her eyes. She looked around warily, her hand instinctively reaching for the sword beside her. Where is this, and who are you? Only later did I find out that she was a sword cultivator disciple of Qin Han. It turned out that the earth-shattering thunderstorm a few days prior was the result of her failing to survive her heavenly tribulation and plummeting to the mortal realm. After her injuries healed, Liu Ruyan didn't leave. Instead, she temporarily stayed at my house. She said she would recuperate here for 5 years before returning to the heavens. I never dared let her touch any rough chores, terrified of injuring her delicate hands. Uncle Fugui, who sold tofu, saw this and teased me. Qin Han, are you treating this fairy like a precious treasure? She's not a farmer like us. She can't do this kind of work. Besides, I'm a grown man. How could I let a woman do all the labor? You sure know how to dote on someone. Uncle Fugui cast me a meaningful glance. I'm just afraid the fairy won't appreciate an uncut gem like you. My heart tightened, but I forced a calm exterior. She's amazing. She can write, calculate, and even paint. That was the 2nd time I lied. Liu Ruyan wouldn't help me with chores, nor would she deign to teach me how to read. She only stayed because she discovered that Liu Village had dense spiritual energy, which was beneficial for her cultivation. I carried a bowl of steamed egg custard I made myself and carefully placed it in front of Liu Ruyan. Fairy, if you haven't returned in 5 years, could you consider being with me? She shot me a cold glance. I will absolutely return to the clouds. When the time comes, I will naturally repay your kindness. I felt a bit disappointed, but I braced myself and said, you don't owe me anything. But if it's not too much trouble, could you teach me to read and do math? I keep getting cheated because I can't keep my accounts straight. Liu Ruyan let out a scoff. Have you ever wondered why they don't cheat anyone else, but they always cheat you? I was stunned. I had never thought about that question before. For an entire night I tossed and turned, but I could never figure it out. But I knew Liu Ruyan didn't hate me as a person. She simply couldn't stand ignorant, foolish mortals. Because in the 3rd year, when her junior martial brother Liu Xingchen visited, I saw Liu Ruyan smile genuinely for the very first time. Watching Liu Xingchen affectionately hold Liu Ruyan's arm, a sudden, inexplicable pang of pain struck my heart. I forced a smile, quietly consoling myself. There are 3 people in the house now. Just like the village chief said, this is a family. Lao Huang might not be human, but he's my family too. Mustering my courage, I said to Liu Ruyan and Liu Xingchen, how about? We all settled down here in the village. Wouldn't it be nice to live together? Liu Xingchen was taken aback at first, but then he burst into uproarious laughter. Pointing at a livid Liu Ruyan, he winked and said, Senior sister, this simpleton wants to marry you? Ha ha ha. I hurriedly waved my hands. No, that's not what I meant. I just yearn for a home, for someone to keep me company, to spend the rest of our lives together. But if we really could stay together for a long, long lifetime, being husband and wife would be okay too. There's something wrong with his brain. Don't listen to his nonsense, Liu Ruyan said, her face dark. Once Liu Ruyan got angry, Liu Xingchen didn't dare joke around anymore. He sat on top of the wall, plucking a peach blossom to play with. Master said you're undergoing a romantic tribulation in the mortal realm, and that yours would be far harder than anyone else's. I was worried for so long. Other people's romantic tribulations involve princes and young nobles, entangled in love for 3 lifetimes. How come you, the #1 sword cultivator, are dealing with? Liu Ruyan acted as if she had been deeply insulted. Her sword aura instantly sheared through the wild peach tree outside the low wall. Emphasizing every word, she said, He is not my romantic tribulation. I didn't quite understand what a romantic tribulation was, but I could guess that Liu Xingqian was someone special to Liu Ruyan. Liu Xingqian was handsome and intelligent. When he curiously tagged along with me to the market, he only had to stand by the stall, and the eggs that usually took me a whole day to sell were gone in a single morning. Forget about cheating him. Those aunties didn't even haggle. They even stuffed snacks, jade pendants, and scented sachets into Liu Xingqian's arms, making him laugh out loud. On the way back, I carried the empty baskets on my shoulder pole, but my heart felt very heavy. I felt that Liu Ruyan was right again. Otherwise, why wouldn't they cheat Liu Xingqian but only cheat me? Senior sister being this evasive isn't right. Why not fake a marriage with him? Deceiving the heavenly Tao is better than nothing. Otherwise, when the lightning tribulation descends in 2 years, I fear you won't survive it, Liu Xingqian sighed. If you manage to ascend, you can compensate him however you like later. Though reluctant, Liu Ruyan had no other choice. Half a year later, I joyously bought a bolt of red cloth, tailored a wedding dress for Liu Ruyan, and made a tall hat for myself. We bowed to heaven and earth, and just like that, we were married. Liu Xingqian was overjoyed. He claimed he saw Liu Ruyan's marriage star flash and then vanish, proving she would definitely pass her romantic tribulation. A marriage star that flashed and vanished, just like the sparks on a pile of dry grass in the stove. I stole a few glances at Liu Ruyan, only to see her cold eyes entirely unbothered. She possessed not a shred of mortal desire. Even the bright red wedding dress seemed freezing cold on her. She was like a red lotus in an August pond. Even in full bloom, it kept everyone 1,000 miles away. After we married, Liu Ruyan forbade me from getting close to her, nor was I allowed to call her wife. All right, wife, I thought silently to myself. I thought that after marriage, a husband and wife should be of one mind and body. If Liu Ruyan practiced the sword, I needed to practice too. I couldn't hold her back. I imitated the way Liu Ruyan taught Liu Xingqian. I gathered my breath and focused my mind, tossing the rice in my hand like forming a sword seal, but my hand slipped and I smashed the chicken feed basin onto the ground. The basin hit the floor and spun a few times. I hurried to pick it up but tripped and fell over. I patted the dust off my clothes, only to hear Liu Xingqian's laughter and see Liu Ruyan's dark expression. When Liu Xingqian was tired of laughing, he sighed. Qin Han is so pathetic. He doesn't even make me feel the slightest bit jealous. Liu Ruyan looked at me coldly, her eyes full of disappointment. She didn't scold me like she usually did, which made me feel even more humiliated. Your innate talent is dull. There is no need to force it, she said indifferently. My heart ached, yet I still refused to give up. I sewed a sword bag for her and wove a sword tassel, but she discarded them like worn-out shoes. I begged her bitterly, hoping she would accompany me to the market. With her by my side, others certainly wouldn't dare bully me. But Liu Ruyan remained unmoved. It wasn't until Liu Xingqian mentioned that he had sensed the aura of a touty beast at the market last time that she reluctantly agreed. She deliberately kept her distance from me, terrified others might misunderstand and think we had some sort of relationship. If anyone asked her if she knew Qin Han, the chicken seller, she would absolutely distance herself from me. Passing young lords frequently cast sideways glances and threw scented sachets at her. Though she remained indifferent, she didn't avoid them as completely as she avoided me. The moonlight was lovely on the way back, so I forced a cheerful smile and struck up a conversation. I mentioned that I had earned 40 copper coins selling eggs today, and that I had encountered the old beggar covered in festering sores again, so I gave him 20 coins in alms. That man is covered in sores, yet he still has to show himself to beg. It's truly pitiful. He's a fraud and the paint on his body is drawn on. You've been cheated again. How do you know? Liu Ruyan was a cultivator, after all. She possessed a spiritual gaze, so if she said he was a fraud, he was. But she couldn't be bothered to explain it to me. It being a scam is better than someone actually suffering from such an agonizing illness, I said softly. I thought to myself, that beggar and I are so alike. He displays his wounds to beg for pity, and haven't I been humbly currying favor in front of Liu Ruyan? At our core, we are no different. Hearing my words, Liu Ruyan's expression grew complicated. She fell silent for a long time, looking as though she wanted to say something, but ultimately only left behind a frigid idiot. This idiot hurt more than it usually did. I stayed silent, my footsteps growing heavier. Liu Ruyan didn't seem to notice that I had fallen behind, or perhaps she did notice but simply preferred to keep her distance. As I walked to the village entrance, lost in thought, the sky had already darkened. No one was around. Only Lao Huang came running from the ridges of the fields, wagging his tail. From that day on, my heart was as still as stagnant water. I no longer held any extravagant hopes for Liu Ruyan. No matter how wonderful she was, I didn't want her anymore. Su Moyu gently touched my lips, stopping me from saying any more. You are wrong, she failed to pass her tribulation. By deceiving the heavenly Tao, she was ultimately abandoned by it. My drowsiness deepened, and I rubbed my aching eyes. The word tribulation hovered in my mind, but I didn't have the energy to dwell on its meaning. Sumoyu, I murmured, what have you been through all these years? She didn't answer, only gently patted my back. Overcome with sleepiness, I unconsciously gripped the corner of her clothes and drifted into slumber. She hadn't revealed her origins, but she told me a story. There was once a fox who cultivated for 1,000 years, growing 9 tails. She went to her master seeking a proper title, wanting to become a fox immortal. But the master said she had committed many evils in her past lives. The magic of her 9 tails could not be used for herself. She could only fulfill the wishes of mortals. Only when someone was willing to deliver her from her tribulation could she achieve the Tao. The first mortal exchanged a wish for immortality. The second mortal asked for wealth. By the time 8 wishes were granted, the fox was left with only her final tail. I thought about it seriously for a moment. Then, why didn't anyone wish for the fox fairy's own wish to come true so she could become an immortal? Sumoyu paused. Then her smile grew even more radiant and captivating. In the end, she met a little boy just like Qin Han. The little boy didn't want gold or riches, nor did he want immortality. He said, I wish that you, little fox, can become an immortal. I was probably too tired. I actually thought I saw demon-like fox markings surface on Su Moyu's delicate, beautiful face. Resting her chin on one hand, she used a sharp, pointed claw to tap my chest. Just like the fox fairy, I help people fulfill their wishes. In exchange for a heart they are willing to let me eat. Qin Han, I am so hungry. During the time Su Moyu stayed at my house, it was like magic. Every day when I woke up, the firewood outside was already chopped. The chickens and ducks were well fed, and the inside and outside of the house were spotless. Even Lao Huang was washed completely clean, his coat shiny and bright. Su Moyu knew the villagers had taken good care of me. If she saw a household with chores that needed doing, she would take the initiative to help. Now this is a virtuous wife. Uncle Liu stroked his beard and laughed. Qin Han sure is lucky. Su Moyu even found time to make an account book for me. She taught me how to read it, but even after she explained it twice, I was still completely lost. Do you understand, Qin Han? I didn't, but I didn't want to be called stupid. I understand. Su Moyu saw right through my thoughts and said gently, Silly Qin Han, if you don't understand, just say so. Come, let's calculate it together. We'll take our time. She took my hand, guiding my grip on the brush, and taught me to keep accounts stroke by stroke. During the day, she put away that demon-like seductiveness. She didn't seem much like a fox at all, but rather like a gentle lady from a noble family. Don't tire yourself out. I'll do the heavy lifting. Feeding the chickens is dirty work. It's not tiring. It just takes a single incantation. Su Moyu rested her chin on her hand and smiled, her long, narrow eyes crinkling just like a fox's. Does Qin Han have any other wishes? Do you want to go sell things together? Whoever bullies you, I'll eat them. I thought about it, then shook my head. Actually, I wanted Su Moyu to come with me to sell eggs, but I was afraid she would find it embarrassing. Su Moyu was very kind. Even if she didn't want to, she definitely wouldn't refuse. I didn't want to put her in a difficult position. Then let's go to the market and buy some fabric to make you some clothes. Su Moyu was exceedingly beautiful. On the road, all the young men couldn't stop staring at her. One bold youth ignored me entirely and threw her a flirtatious glance. Whose daughter is this fine lady? Are you spoken for? Su Moyu took my hand and gave the man a mild smile. Yes, I belong to Qin Han's family. Hearing her say that, a surge of heroic pride welled up in my chest. I strutted proudly through the market. Su Moyu took me to the silk and satin shop. The dazzling array of fabrics overwhelmed my eyes. I instinctively tugged at her sleeve. Isn't this too expensive? She gently squeezed my hand, her eyes full of indulgence. Silly, you deserve the best. Su Moyu spent 10 taels of silver to make 2 sets of flowing, ethereal red clothes. She smiled and said we would wear them on the day we got married. It was my first time wearing silk. It was so comfortable, like cool water flowing over my body. Su Moyu pulled me along through the market, buying plenty of rouge, cosmetics, hairpins, and jewelry. We shopped from noon until dark. She also bought 2 jugs of fine wine to take back. This wine is good. When we get married, we'll buy wine this good. This was also the first time in my life I had ever tasted wine. Su Moyu could eat a lot, but her tolerance for alcohol was very low. She couldn't even outdrink me. Qin Han, are you happy? Are you satisfied? Do you want anything else? I nodded vigorously, then shook my head. I don't want anything else. This is already perfect. Su Moyu's eyes were hazy with drink. She proudly raised her chin. This is nothing. Even if you wanted glory and wealth or to be a top-ranking official, I could make it happen. Even if you wanted to be the emperor, it would just take a nod from this divine beast. I chewed on my chopsticks. Although I didn't really understand, I was very impressed. My wife Sumoyu is so amazing. Sumoyu was heavily drunk. She leaned in close, using the moonlight to examine me carefully. Then let me eat your heart, okay? Okay. I answered too readily, and Sumoyu became unhappy again. Silly Qin Han, do you even know what I mean? I know. I might be a fool, but I wasn't completely clueless. Sumoyu wasn't human. She was a demon who ate human hearts to increase her cultivation. But so what? No one had ever treated me so well. She bit my cheek neither too lightly nor too hard. Tusk, so easy to fool, it almost makes me feel bad for you. Sumoyu and I were getting married. Unlike Liu Ruyan, who had been secretive and evasive, she wanted to make a grand occasion of it. Sumoyu personally went door to door handing out invitations. Her beautiful calligraphy dazzled quite a few people. She even used her paper cutting skills to decorate the whole village. Even Lao Huang's doghouse had a double happiness character pasted on it. We went to town together to order wine. After carefully tasting them, Sumoyu picked the very best. Watching her bustle about, I felt both sweet affection and guilt. Sumoyu sensed my mood and gently held my hand. Don't worry, Qin Han, this is our big day. It deserves the best. The late autumn wind brushed our cheeks, its chill seeping into our hearts in a refreshing way. The ox cart moved slowly and we weren't in a hurry. Sumoyu picked a wild chrysanthemum and carefully tucked it near my hand. The wine jars on the cart clinked together, playing a crisp, melodious tune. Biting on a piece of foxtail grass, she pillowed her hands behind her head. Looking up at the wild geese flying across the sky, she said softly, Qin Han. I suddenly feel that being a mortal is pretty nice too. On our wedding day, all my fellow villagers came. Lao Huang barked excitedly. Qin Han is finally taking a wife. His parents can rest in peace down in the Yellow Springs. The village chief wiped his eyes emotionally. It's a joyous occasion, don't talk about such things. Uncle Fugui looked at Sumoyu, grinning from ear to ear. This girl is gorgeous. This silly kid Qin Han sure is blessed. Underneath her sleeves, Sumoyu secretly squeezed my hand. Just as Sumoyu and I were bowing to heaven and earth before we could even rise, a blast of sword aura from behind shattered the wedding table. That sword, I recognized it as Liu Ruyan's at a single glance. I turned around to see Liu Ruyan floating down, her robes fluttering. Seeing this dark-faced immortal coming to mete out punishment, the guests scattered in a panic to flee for their lives. When Liu Ruyan saw Sumoyu in her wedding dress, she actually stood stunned for a moment. She quickly recovered, a mocking smile on her lips. Qin Han, are you really going to marry a monster? Liu Ruyan seemed to know exactly how to wound me. With that one sword strike, she easily destroyed the wedding banquet that Sumoyu and I had worked so hard for half a month to prepare. The wine we had specifically bought from town was now shattered all over the floor. Liu Ruyan stood with her robes billowing, pointing her sword at Sumoyu. She is deceiving you. Her kindness is nothing but a trick. Liu Ruyan pulled out a magical artifact brought from Qingyun Peak. When that glowing golden pouch appeared in front of Sumoyu, her human form began to melt away. Sumoyu curled up on the ground, her body constantly shifting. Her face distorted, fangs grew longer, and sharp claws emerged. She is a monstrous nine-tailed fox. To restore her cultivation, she intends to eat your heart, Liu Ruyan said coldly. I suppressed my burning anger and looked at Liu Ruyan expressionlessly. So what? My reaction left Liu Ruyan stunned. I couldn't hold it in any longer and clenched my fists. Yet Liu Ruyan, the one who had once loathed and despised me, actually reached out to grab me. She deliberately softened her tone. You fool, she wants to eat your heart. She treats you well only to kill you. I fiercely swatted Liu Ruyan's hand away and stood blocking her sword. She is my wife. If you want to kill her, you'll have to kill me first. Qin Han, stop being so stubborn. Don't be blinded by her false gentleness. Liu Ruyan gripped her longsword tightly, her eyes filled with complex emotions. Didn't you want a wife? Just let me kill her. My master has permitted me to descend to the mortal realm and be your wife for one lifetime. I've finally figured it out. But I don't want you. I didn't look at Liu Ruyan. I untied my handkerchief and wiped the blood from Sumoyu's forehead. Sumoyu struggled to raise her hand, wanting to touch my face. Qin Han, don't be angry. Her strike wasn't heavy, it doesn't hurt. To put my mind at ease, Sumoyu tried several times to return to her human form, but she failed every time. She smiled awkwardly. She could no longer use her demonic magic. She was effectively a cripple. Do you still want this useless cripple? Liu Ruyan was right. Sumoyu had lost her demonic powers. We could no longer clean up messes with just a snap of her fingers. I ignored Liu Ruyan, simply crouching down and slowly picking up the broken porcelain pieces. Sumoyu stood up, wanting to help me clean up. I held her hand down and said softly, "Don't move, I'll do it." Lao Huang crouched by Sumoyu's feet, glaring fiercely and menacingly at Liu Ruyan. "Qin Han, are you really coveting the illusions she conjured? The fine silks, the delicious food and wine, they are all just spells meant to deceive your heart." Liu Ruyan was stunned. "She has no demonic magic now, she's nothing but a cripple, how ridiculous." "Liu Ruyan, you have always looked down on me. You think I am just a vain mortal who coveted your immortal beauty, who wanted to use your cultivation to throw his weight around. Now you think I covet the pre-chopped firewood, the silk on my back, or even her beautiful skin." I looked at Liu Ruyan coldly, my voice hoarse but resolute. "I don't understand this great righteousness you speak of. I only know that she is my wife. If you want to kill her, you'll have to step over my dead body. Immortals can slay demons, but they cannot kill mortals." With me shielding Sumoyu, Liu Ruyan could find no opportunity to strike. Having lost her demonic power, Sumoyu was now just an ordinary person. We had to wake up very early, clean the chicken coop, and walk a long way to set up our stall at the market just to earn a few coins to scrape by. Sunup to sundown, an ordinary person's life repeated like this. Only wherever we went, Liu Ruyan would follow us, neither too close nor too far. Even without her demonic magic, Sumoyu still knew how to read and keep accounts. When there were no customers, she patiently taught me. Oh my, isn't this the newlywed Qin Han? It was Wang Mazi again, the man who was always trying to take advantage of me. I instinctively stepped in front of Sumoyu, watching him warily. Wang Mazi leaned in with a cheeky grin. "Don't be so tense. Come on, let's do some business again." I glared at him coldly. "Get lost. Your temper has grown, boy. Whatever little scheme you've got. Forget it, forget it. I won't stoop to your level." I didn't want to bother with him. I took Sumoyu's hand and turned to walk away. "My husband is pure-hearted and doesn't like to argue with rascals like you. If you don't understand basic manners." Sumoyu stepped in front of me, raised her chin, and sneered. "I know a thing or two about martial arts as well." As it turned out, Wang Mazi knew a bit more about martial arts than she did. Sumoyu lost the fight, and I lost another basket of eggs. On the way back, it was already late. The sky was full of stars, and the field ridges were silent. "Once this divine beast restores her magic, I'll rip out his heart and lungs and eat them," Sumoyu said through gritted teeth, a fierce light flashing in her eyes. But seeing my worried gaze, she lowered her head, her tone carrying a hint of self-mockery. "Qin Han, I'm sorry. I wanted to get justice for you, but I ended up making you lose even more." Looking at her fragile silhouette, a sudden warmth surged in my heart. This once high and mighty demon was now willing to endure a mortal's bullying for my sake. I gently held her hand. "It's all right. Having you by my side makes it worth being a fool." Sumoyu froze for a moment, then broke into a radiant smile. "Qin Han, even though I got beaten up, I think being a mortal isn't so bad after all. Look at Wang Mazi. So what if he won? He doesn't have a husband to protect him." Lao Huang was waiting for us from afar at the village entrance. He ran up joyfully, running in circles around us. Sumoyu crouched down and gently stroked Lao Huang's head. "Good boy, waiting for us to come home." Watching this scene, my heart was filled with warmth. The once arrogant demon was now as gentle as an ordinary mortal woman. The night breeze brushed past, bringing bursts of osmanthus fragrance. We looked at each other and smiled, our eyes full of happiness. In that moment, the difference between immortals and mortals seemed to no longer matter. We were just an ordinary mortal couple in this world, relying on each other to survive. The moonlight flowed like water. Sumoyu quietly held my hand. Her palms were a bit rough, no longer as smooth and delicate as before, but this very roughness made my heart race. I suddenly pulled my hand back and stammered, "Moyu, am I sick? My heart is beating so fast." Sumoyu lowered her head. Under the moonlight, I saw the tips of her ears turn slightly red. "Silly, me too." Our eyes met, then hurriedly darted away. The crescent moon tonight was young and unversed in hiding people's secrets, allowing us to see that both our faces were entirely flushed. I think I was broken in the fight, too." Sumoyu looked at me nervously, pointing to her chest. "Qin Han, I didn't eat any sugar pancakes, but I feel so sweet right here." Lao Huang didn't understand. He just tilted his head, studying us, then barked angrily 3 times. There was someone at the door. It was Liu Ruyan. She stood there silently, watching us talk and laugh. She had watched for a long time, her clothes covered in dew. She carried that basket of eggs and stood in front of me. "Your eggs?" Liu Ruyan turned her head away, her voice stiff. I was stunned. Liu Ruyan had actually stood up for me. Hadn't she said she wanted to stay far away from worldly karmic ties and have no connections with mortals? Thank you, but I don't need them anymore. Aren't you? Liu Ruyan hesitated, swallowing her words. It suddenly dawned on me. She had been paying attention to me all along. I looked at her spotless, pristine, immortal robes and imagined how, with just a single word from her, Wang Mazi had obediently returned the eggs. Something that was as hard as ascending to the heavens for me was effortless for her. A complex mix of emotions surged in my heart. Liu Ruyan, no matter what you do, I will not leave Su Moyu. Liu Ruyan frowned. But she is deceiving you. Qin Han, I am not asking you to abandon her. She paused for a moment as if organizing her words. You are my tribulation. From you I have comprehended the pure heart of a child. I want to repay you and spend this lifetime with you. Liu Ruyan's words shocked me. She was actually willing to lay down her identity as an immortal just to stay by my side. I can take care of you just like she does. I can do it even better, Liu Ruyan said urgently, her tone carrying a softness she herself didn't even realize. Looking at the lofty fairy before me, my heart was a tangled mess of emotions. I had once given her my whole heart, willingly acting the lovesick fool. Now that she had finally turned back, I was no longer that mortal who foolishly followed her. Liu Ruyan, I smiled bitterly and shook my head. You owe me nothing. There shouldn't have been any of these entanglements between us in the first place. Liu Ruyan froze, a flash of hurt in her eyes. Liu Ruyan, I don't want to be a fool. I want to be handsome and smart like Liu Xingchen, too. That day, you asked me why they didn't cheat anyone else, only me. I figured it out. In this world, if there are immortals, there must be mortals. If there are smart people, there must be fools. Su Moyu treats me well, so I am willing to be a fool. I am willing to be deceived by her. I looked at Su Moyu, my eyes full of tenderness. Because she is worth my everything. Even if it is a scam, I am more than willing. When it comes down to mutual willingness, all the logic and ledgers in the world no longer make sense and can never be clearly calculated. Liu Ruyan was silent for a long time. Finally, with great difficulty, she spoke. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have treated you like that. Don't worry about it. You saved Lao Huang. We've been even for a long time. I didn't want to hold a grudge against her. It would be too exhausting. It would be like worrying about the wind blowing off the chicken coop roof in the middle of the night, having to get up again and again to check. Su Moyu nervously tugged at my sleeve. Qin Han, I swear I will never lie to you again. I held her hand, feeling that comforting warmth. Winter passed and spring arrived. It was once again the beautiful season when the village peach blossoms were in full bloom. A school opened in the village, and Su Moyu went there to teach the students. Liu Ruyan also settled down in the village. She opened a free charity clinic, diagnosing illnesses and giving out medicine to the common folk. Liu Xingchen came looking for her several times, but couldn't persuade her to return. I need to question my heart here, seek my Tao, and rid myself of my arrogance and insolence, Liu Ruyan had said. I finally understand what Master meant by having me come here. When the green apricots on the branches were still small, Su Moyu and I held a make-up wedding. The guests had varying expressions. Some whispered among themselves, while others shot frequent sideways glances. They were all unsettled by Liu Ruyan's presence. Today, Liu Ruyan wore simple, plain clothes. Her demeanor was peaceful, looking like a completely different person from before. She healed the sick and saved lives, as if that once peerlessly sharp sword of hers had been sealed away in dust. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, who would have thought this amiable and approachable doctor was once that overbearing, arrogant fairy? The village was brimming with joy, and every seat at the wedding banquet was filled. Even Wang Mazi came. He put down 2 chickens, but was too embarrassed to go inside and sit. There are seats, I said. Visitors are guests, go inside and sit. It's better to resolve enmity than to keep it alive. Besides, it wasn't some deep blood feud hatred anyway. There was also an old beggar covered in sores who put down 20 copper coins as a wedding gift. I thought about it carefully. He looked a bit familiar, but I couldn't quite remember this old man. However, Liu Ruyan froze. The old beggar waved his hand, cutting off Liu Ruyan's stunned exclamation. The old man simply brushed his sleeves and floated away. After a full day of welcoming and seeing off guests, the night finally grew quiet. Lao Huang was already exhausted, lying in the corner and snoring. The candlelight flickered. Only Su Moyu and I were left in the room. Wearing her bright red wedding gown, she looked nothing like the female schoolteacher she usually was. That posture, that gaze, she was the absolute picture of a soul-stealing demon. Accentuated by the red clothes, her features looked even more bewitchingly beautiful. I couldn't help but stare, completely captivated. Moyu, I suddenly spoke. Have you ever done anything bad? I felt inexplicably nervous, terrified that she had done something atrocious and would be punished by heaven. Su Moyu was taken aback, but then she laughed. What's wrong, Qin Han? Why ask this so suddenly? She blinked. If we're talking about bad things, I'm a fox demon. Naturally, I wanted to eat human hearts. Unfortunately, right after I left the mountains, I ran into that old stubborn fool, Liu Ruyan's master. He insisted I was stupid, saying I would never attain the Tao like this. I refused to accept that, so I asked him what it meant to be enlightened. When you encounter a true heart that you can eat but no longer wish to eat, then you will have attained enlightenment. As she spoke, Su Moyu suddenly leaned close to my ear. Qin Han, do you think I count as enlightened now? My heart suddenly raced, and my ears felt burning hot. Then when I get old and die, what will you do? Su Moyu playfully pecked my cheek, a mischievous light dancing in her eyes. I've already thought it through. When you turn 100 and become a cute little old man, I'll eat your heart. She said it with dancing eyebrows and glowing eyes. Then I'll become the invincible great demon king. I'll go wherever I want, and no one will be able to stop me. I raised an eyebrow, watching her triumphant look. I found it funny, but also felt a bit helpless. All right, and how does the great demon king plan to display her magical powers? A hint of mischief flashed in Su Moyu's eyes, quickly followed by a deep tenderness. I'll go wait by the bridge of helplessness. I'll go wait in the mortal realm. No one will dare chase me away. After waiting for so long, someone will naturally ask, whose family does this girl belong to? Who is she waiting for? She raised her chin proudly and said, word by word, and I'll tell them, I belong to Qin Han's family. Naturally, I am waiting for Qin Han. Listening to her words, a surge of warmth suddenly flooded my heart. This once high and mighty demon was now willing to wait 1,000 years just for me.